Hello, everybody. This is Mark Kumar, your lifestyle entrepreneur and proud founder of Simple Podcast Cloud, a platform that allows podcasters to flourish like a beautiful flower. And because we give them everything unlimited, which is storage, shows, and the whole nine yard. If you're in the market for looking for a podcast host, definitely check us out, which is a simplepodcastcloud.com. And if you listen to the whole show, at the end of the show, we're going to be sharing something special with you for all you podcasters out there. So make sure you listen to the whole thing. So speaking of podcasters, we have another amazing podcaster, Adam, who is going to be sharing some serious knowledge bombs here for you,
I
and
will
then help
try.
you.
I
And
will
then
try.
he's gonna help you take your podcasting career wherever it is to the next level. So without any further ado, Adam, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, yeah, I'm Adam Macias. I am a podcaster, podcast producer, editor, video editor, live streamer. I do all the dang things out there in the world right now. But my main podcast, my little pride and joy, is called Finger Guns Comedy. We've been running for about 3 years, and we do all the things. We stream, we do sketches. There's the website right there. We have a brand new website. I'm not sure when this will be live, but we have a brand new content coming out constantly, and you can catch our live show on Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific.
All right, Adam, man, just awesome, man. I'm sure people are going to be going there, and you're a comedian, which is a good thing to have. Tell me how you got into the podcasting in the comedian world. You could have picked anything. Why comedy?
Well, you know what's so funny is that I actually got through to be like into comedy through podcasting. Actually, funny enough, yeah. So I'm a musician. I almost
Okay.
said I used to be a musician because that's like I was like hardcore that, and I've always had an interest in audio engineering, and that's what I went to school for was audio engineering, and going to music and stuff. And I moved to LA. That's where I'm from. That's where I live.
Okay.
And we have these things called open mics,
Right.
which I'm not ever sure if you've ever been to like a little cafe
Yep.
where somebody has a little microphone and starts playing some like sad love songs. Well, I was doing that for a while. I was hitting up all the open mics, and so I was like, this was like a time where I had just moved to LA. I didn't have a lot of friends. I did just, however, get a brand new iPhone 3G, and along that
Ooh.
came with it was the podcast app. And
Okay.
so I was listening. I was like, what are these podcasts? And I like comedy, so I found uh, uh, shows like Adam Carolla, the Comedy Bang Bang, which was at the time called Comedy Death Ray,
Right.
and I just kind of like I was like, oh, this is fun, and I had always like liked entertaining and making jokes and being silly. And I kind of had this idea. I was like, man, I kind of want to try stand up. I kind of want to try to do this. And so
Okay.
one day I messed up. I went to an open mic, but it wasn't a music open mic. It was a comedy open mic. So they had all these comedians perform. And then they were like, "Oh my God, thank God, a musician, thank God!" Like they were so happy of like people talking instead of people talking about their like their whatever dumb joke penis jokes they have or whatever. They wanted some love songs, and so I just was like, well, I'm here. So I played like one of my songs, and then I just like told a joke that I kind of had been writing or a story that I kind of had been writing, and it
Okay.
killed as it does. Like that's what everybody's open mics first story is like. I killed, man. I came back, and then like it's just been stardom from ever since then. I mean, it wasn't like that. I mean, killed meaning like the three people in the room, including the barista, laughed. So like it wasn't like so. Anyways,
Okay.
I found myself in the comedy world because I kind of was exposed to more comedy through podcasting, and that's kind of where I've since then just kind of followed my career from there.
Just out of curiosity, can you tell that story? 'Cause I want to know. I want to hear it because it sounds interesting. Or the joke, if
I
you
don't even
remember it.
remember. No, I to be honest, it was
All right,
like
that's fine.
about somebody that what it was that it was a bad joke. It was really bad, but it was essentially one of my first jokes was I always found that like this. I don't know how crass we can be on the show or whatever,
Try
but
to be kid friendly.
I'm going to be mostly kid friendly. But
Okay.
what I was young and 19 years old, and I was like, oh my God, like people are like people are are crazy. Like they're biologically, there's so much stuff going on. And like if you think about it, like women, sorry, they're magical. You know, they're pretty much magical. Like think
Right.
about it. Like two women stay together long enough, they're their cycles like become sync. They like somehow their bodies just like sync up together, which that's magical. Like guys, they don't get like erections at the same time when they like live together. So what I asked, I was like, well, what happens at women's prisons? Like, do they all just like, does everybody like on the same cycle? And so like where's that movie like,
It's
like what I
it's
just
called the Orange is the Black.
yeah, Orange is the New Black. Yeah. Well, at the time, this was before Orange is the Black. Anyways,
All
the
right.
movie was called There Will Be Blood. Anyways, that's
Gotcha.
what I was imagining.
That's pretty interesting. No one even thought about it. Like, wow. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah,
It,
that's
wa-
pretty cool.
but anyways, yeah. So that's what kind of got me into it, and I found improv and I found sketch, kind of all through my favorite podcast, and that's like. It's everybody always like I want to be I want to be TV star or whatever. I was like I kind of just want to work for Earwolf. I want to work for like a really nice comedy show, and that's where I've been doing since then.
So basically, podcasting, you listen to it, it helped you become a comedian in a sense. Would that
Yeah,
fair to say?
I would say so. Yeah, like it's like how like old comedians or comedians in general they used to say they're like, oh, I memorized first time I got Richard Pryor's album, I memorized it and I listened to it, like, and that's how they like develop their the rhythm and their like
Right.
timing and stuff, because they just memorize and repeat it. Well, that's kind of how I was. Not, I mean, I'm not saying I'm like super famous and very successful at this. Some would argue that I'm not very funny either, but I would say that I kind of really did put my time listening to a lot of comedy through podcasting.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody who's starting out, obviously, listen to the podcast and see which one resonates with you. For obviously, the one that resonates with you is comedy, and other people might be a different thing, whatever. So, walk me through your first episode when you recorded it. How did that pretty much unfolded?
Well, I started doing it. It was like, again, was another one of those like right place, right time, kismet thing.
Okay.
I have my first podcast that I ever started. It's called La 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 Land. It was a musical improv, sci-fi, Rick and Morty comedy, so crazy thing. And it was like three friends of mine that I actually had met doing comedy at Upright Citizens Brigade Theater. It's a kind of an improv theater and sketch comedy theater in here in LA and in New York.
Okay.
And we were after a class one day, and my friend Drew sat us down. He's like, "Guys, I have a project. I've been thinking about wanting to do a podcast." And like the second he said it, I was like, down, because that's why I was in, like, it's like one of those things. I went to that school because I had heard about it from my favorite guests on podcasts and stuff. So like then I went to the school, and then right after like my second, like after a class or
Right.
so, somebody was like, I want to do a podcast and I think I want to do it with you guys. And I was like, this is it. I'm here. I'm doing this. This is where I want to be. And that's what happened. And I'm still very, very proud of that podcast. We ended up, it's not really, we put out specials every now and then, but honestly, I'm so proud of it. There's like sound design, it's all improvised music, and there's a really cool storyline. And it's just really fun, man. And it's just one of those things where like, we did it.
All right, cool. So, what was the mic thing that you used for your first podcasting?
Oh, my mic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, like I said,
Or how did you record it? Like, you already had the equipment, whatever, things of
I
that nature?
did. Yeah. So
Okay.
like I said, I'm a musician. I went to school for music,
Oh,
and so I had and musical engineering, like actually. So like, recording, mixing, editing, all that stuff. So I had a Sapphire Pro 40. Yeah, it was very nice. So yeah, I love that thing. And then I had a bunch of, it's like one of these. I had an SM58. I still use this thing. I love it so much. And it was about, here, I'm sure this is a great sound for the podcast here. Here you go. That's my
that's what
card.
that's what you get for having a comedian on a podcast interview.
Yeah, this is my spit guard. Anyway, sorry. But Yeah, so this is called ASMR, folks. You get paid good money for this these days.
Oh my
Yes,
god.
yes, it's
Yes.
fake. Okay. Anyways, yeah, so a lot of SM58s. I love them. They're they're as much as your Yeti, which I don't even get me started. I hate those things. You're they're much as a Yeti, pretty much. But then there was also this interface that I had on the side that
Okay.
did a lot of things, and you know, I'm a gearhead, so that's where we went from there. And then I had headphones and XLR cables and all that stuff, and we recorded right in my kitchen living table, dining table right there.
Really?
Yeah, that's where we record. I think I have a picture of it
How was the
somewhere.
background noises or when you
Uh,
record it?
it was actually not bad because we recorded specifically on a very quiet day,
Oh, okay.
and actually, if you want to vamp for a second, I can show you the picture. It's on my Instagram.
Sure.
Uh, we can do a little screen share because we're on the StreamYard here.
Sure.
Let's see if I can find it real quick. But essentially, that's what it was. The background noise wasn't that bad because here's a pro tip: this is why I like the SM58s is that they are dynamic microphones. So
Mm-hmm.
they're not as opposed to a condenser microphone. Condensers are more lively. They require less gain because they are more sensitive. Dynamic microphone, like right now, I see how far away I am from this. I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm about um, like
Fist
a
fit.
fifth waist length apart, which
Right.
is what you would want to do typically for a condenser microphone. But you can kind of tell like it's too far away. I'm kind of thin sounding, but like
Right.
the sweet point is really kind of just right up on it. I'm probably a little too loud right now because it's cranked up, but you hear all the resonance in my voice, my lows, my mids, my highs, because the point of it is that you want to get really, really close, and you can
Okay.
actually eliminate a lot of background noise um, by using a dynamic, just simply the sensitivity of that microphone. And then I learned a lot of other tricks and plugins along the way, and um, which have proven to be pretty successful for me.
Right. So just out of curiosity, people who are not so much familiar with or in tune with the technical side. So condenser microphone, they're not like your regular USB microphone that you could just plug right into the your computer or laptop and things like that. So how do you get the sound from your condenser microphone into your computer where you can actually listen to it or do something with it?
Right. Yeah. So you're like I said, your Yetis, they have a USB, just
Sure.
goes straight into the thing. Well, so like I said, so the Sapphire Pro 40, that is an interface. And at the time that wasn't even through USB. So that was an interface that was actually connected through a FireWire cable, which
Okay.
are extinct now. Thank you, Apple. You can't even you can't use there's no computer comes with a FireWire adapter anymore,
Yep.
brand new. So all of my I have like I all my equipment is gone. So thanks again, Apple. But anyways, point being is they this microphone here is connected through an analog cable, an XLR cable,
Okay.
that's then connected to an audio interface, otherwise known as an a analog to digital converter. And that is sent. That connection is then made via a FireWire cable. Some of my That's when the USB connection would come into play. So if you have your Scarlett, it's also made by Sapphire. That would be a USB connection. This was a more of a heavy duty thing. It had 40 is 8 inputs, a bunch of pre's and stuff. And
Right.
let me see if I can show this to you right now. I'm totally wrong. On our first episode, I'm actually seeing more things here. This is actually a little bit jankier than what I just described.
Okay.
Uh, I'm going to show you right now. Can you add this to the stream? Is that
Yep.
possible? Yeah, it's not
Let me
a
see. There you
yeah. So
go.
right there, so there's me. Look at baby face Adam. But actually, so yeah, I'm using Logic right here. You can see all the SM58s right here.
Yep.
I'm actually using another mixer here, where this is also its own interface. This is a Yamaha MG something. I forget the name of it, but
Okay.
that was being used for some headphones and some auxiliary inputs. But then also So I have two of these. This is a Sapphire Pro 24, which is
Okay.
like a smaller version of this. And the way it kind of works, it was just converting cables and stuff like that. Essentially,
Right.
everything was still running through the Sapphire Pro 40, blah blah blah. And then you can actually see. At the time, my inventory was so low. I gave my friend Drew here my this really nice condenser microphone that I have. It's called a baby baby bottle. It's a
Oh,
from Blue.
okay.
Uh, this is one of my still one of my favorite like recording microphones. But this is something I would use to record singing, but it's not something I would record for
A
uh,
podcast.
a podcast. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, those of you who are listening to this on your iTunes, or Google Podcasts, and Spotify, check out the YouTube video. I will definitely put that in also in the show notes where you can check that out. And when you look at this picture, you will be like, "Wow, that's some crazy setup." But definitely, that shows the dedication that you need, have to get this podcast up and running. So,
Yeah. Of
thank you so much for sharing that, man. I appreciate it.
course. Yeah. No problem.
Yeah. All right, so we got the podcasting. I mean, going. So we got the how you picked your niche that you want to go start a pod. And then in your case was the comedian. Then you got your gear going on, and then the next phase was like, do you do your podcast as a solopreneur, meaning just use yourself, or is it interview based, or what's the format of it?
Oh, okay. So, well, like I said, that was a project that we just kind of like. It was almost like an album. We just like did it, and then we just kind of never returned back to it. But my main show that we kind of talked about at the beginning was
Right.
is Finger Guns Comedy, and that was actually with another group of friends that we do.
Okay.
So it's not solo by any means. Though I am like kind of because I'm the this is my format. I love this format. I do have a lot of opinions, and I believe that like certain things should be done in a certain way or whatever. But
Right.
we it's totally collaborative as much as I can possibly make it. Like I have a group of right now it's 7 people on our
7 people.
team. Yeah, yeah. So it started off at 6 actually, and then we lost a few, and then we gained some more. But it's all friends that we know, comedians, friends, people, actors, and stuff. And we essentially it started off as like a sketch team essentially,
Okay.
and like your Saturday Night Live, like we just had different people filling different roles doing stuff, and it really wasn't interview based. This is something that I for people advice out there, we started like too niche. Like
Okay.
our original idea was to do like parody podcasts every week, but as like something what I've learned kind of as the format and as me learning more and me talking about it more and listening to them more, it's like it's not really good for a fan base to come back to a show every week, to want to come back from a show every week that's different every week.
Right.
It's almost like especially with comedy, you kind of want it to reset, and like you want the same premise each time, and then like the jokes are different, but it always kind of comes back to like there's Raymond, there's his brother, there's his mom, there's Raymond's wife, but
Yep.
At the end of the day, everybody loves Raymond. You know what I'm saying? Like
Exactly.
you want, or like at the end of the day, Peter and the rest of the Family Guy crew, it's like no one's gonna die at the end of the episode, is what I'm saying.
Right.
So that's kind of what we would do every week, is like everything would be different, and it was just kind of hard to catch that thread and also gain audience member, like more family, or not family, though I do think of my fans as family.
They truly are, because if you
Really
think
are.
about it that way, that's how you really create the emotional correction, the content for it, and then
Yeah.
we'll dive into the content. But well, I'll let you finish first.
But well, that's what I'm saying. It's just like we didn't have a distinct format, and that it was going to be different. And
Right.
that's just to speak on like family. Um, it's almost like developing a relationship with somebody. You don't want them. You don't want every time to hang out with them that they're like a different person. Like you don't want that. Like when you
Right.
get to know somebody, you want to like okay, yeah, that's right. We did talk about that last time, and then we're building off of that, and then we're building off of that, and then
Yep.
every now and then they do something crazy that's like surprising and fun. For the most part, they're pretty consistent, and that's what I
Yep.
think. Like because podcasting is such an intimate thing,
Yep.
um, that's kind of what you want. You want that person, that personal like relationship. And so our format eventually evolved about a year later to be interviewing comedians and just kind of normal people that had an interesting hot take, and then we would do comedy based off of it. So we would do improvised sketches with fully sound design and all that stuff. And then like we would say you told me a story, and
Right.
then we would do like a comedic scene based off that story. And then
Can you give an example? I'm just curious how that works out
sure, sure.
for far as the comedian, because I never really had that concept or that
Well,
thought
yeah,
about
like
it.
I mean,
Yeah.
think about this. You ever watch like a comedian and they tell like a story and then they start like acting out that story
Uh
like
huh.
like with all the characters? It's kind of like that, but like with a group of people rather than one people. So like say
Okay.
you tell me a story about your day and all of a sudden you went to the coffee shop and then there was this Karen in there just asked like saying I'm not wearing a mask. I'm not wearing a mask or whatever.
Right.
That's what we would do a scene on is like, and then just, kind of blow out the world and making kind of funny from there. Um, but then, speaking of that, uh, we had a studio where everybody would go in and record and, it's a big crew.
Right.
So because of all the restrictions and the shelter in place, Mark, I don't know where you are currently
I am
in the
based
world.
out of Queens, New York.
You're in Queens, New York. So yeah, so we're in LA. So
Okay.
you at the beginning of this, we were all we're about the same thing. Everything
Yep.
was kind of shut down, and so we didn't have a lot of people in the studio. So we actually reformatted our our show again to, but still like the same kind of twist.
Okay.
Instead of doing like scenes, we still would interview people, but then um, we kind of made it more of like a talk show, variety show kind of format, but still providing around the same amount of comedy. Just because it's a little bit different when you're in a room,
Okay.
like improvising, as opposed to over the internet. Like you and I talking, which you're a great listener, Mark. I feel like I could talk to you for hours.
Tell me again.
But yeah, no problem. No, so yeah, no, like there's just a certain amount of like you speak and then I
Right.
speak over the internet. That's not necessarily conducive to like improv because like a lot of the time it's just like being in the same moment and saying the exact same thing. It's just like
Exactly.
it's this type of connection. There's literally a delay and it's messes with comedic timing. So we kind of reformat it to be more like you speak and then you speak and then you speak type of thing. But I think the show it's definitely hitting a stride and we're live every week and stuff. So that does that answer your question about format,
That answers
Mark?
the definitely question, because I'm like, because I'm used to like a podcasting being like yourself and then one person interview, but you are taking it to the whole another level where you definitely need a lot of organization, because you got like a whole bunch of people, more than just two people. Like, you need to make sure that everybody organizes, because so people who are listening to it, they will be like, who the hell is this guy? I'm listening to this, and
Yes.
2 seconds later I'm listening to that. Like, I'm getting
Yes.
confused, and then before you know it, nobody's listening to the show. So the level of
Exactly.
organization, I could totally appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what we try to do. So like I am essentially kind of like the host. I kind of guide everybody through every week. And then
Right.
my kind of goal is to make it the most like it is formatted, but then we still have like crazy moments in between all that. And we bring on, very, very cool like comedic guests and stuff like that too. So
Okay, so how do you go about finding guests to come into your shows? Just out of curiosity.
So it's really kind of changed. So we it's through Facebook groups or
Sure.
Instagram or Twitter, and sometimes it's like just comedians that I know personally. I'm like, oh yeah, you would be great, or friends that I know personally. Or sometimes I just like put a tweet out on Facebook or on Twitter. I tweet on Facebook. Not a lot of people do that. Um,
You're unique.
I'm very unique. That's that's what I've been told. No. So yeah, I would just say like, hey, I'm looking to talk to people working as like I did an interview with a administrator for the Los Angeles Unified School District, and this is
Okay.
a total real interview. She was retired. Her son is a teacher for the Unified School District, and this was when, everybody was talking about, is the schools going to open? And like Betsy DeVos was like, we're opening schools, and everyone's like, what? Are you crazy? That's crazy. And so instead of like us doing like a hot take on it, I really wanted to hear about teachers. And this is something like, who doesn't know a teacher, you know? So I figured I knew a teacher out there for sure. And I
Right.
wanted to hear their opinion of like what's going on. And of course it's just like, yeah, well, Betsy DeVos is crazy, that type of thing. But it was still nice to hear what they had to say. And that's where we are ultimately going to in the show, is that we want to talk to real people, and like we help comedy, but
Right.
nothing is more funny or more funny. Nothing's
Funnier.
fun.
Funnier.
Nothing's more funnier. Yeah, thank you, Mark. Uh, there's nothing more funnier than like truth, and
Right.
that's what we're trying to do. So we're trying to get more people on the show, doctors, nurses, people that are really going through stuff right now, because who doesn't know a nurse? Like somebody in my family's a nurse. Somebody, some brilliant person in my family is a doctor, even though I hate them, and they're probably super successful. There's a doctor in my family I can talk to, and
Right.
anybody. So what we do is I'll just send out a little thing like, hey, do I know any doctors
Right.
on Facebook? And then somebody will tag a friend, or do I know any newscasters or anything like that? And someone will tag a friend, and that's kind of where we go to our guests. And it's been honestly one of the best, like interview moments I've had,
Okay.
for sure.
Just out of curiosity,
Hmm.
when your show is obviously about comedy, right, and everything else, and then you have these serious people, the doctors, the teachers, and things of nature. What are their perception when they come in? Like, I'm gonna go to the comedy show. How do you like kind of communicate that? Like, don't worry, we're still gonna have a serious talk, but we're gonna laugh about it
Yes.
as well.
Well, so the beauty of it now is that because I'm also like an editor, what we'll do is like these
Okay.
serious conversations. I try not to bring them into like the live crazy show, because where we have sketches and we have characters, and then we have like people kind of just like talking off the cuff and stuff. Shout out to Edward Rosales, I love you, man. Knows how to shoot from the hip for sure. Um, but what I do is I'll talk to them over over Zoom, and it's just like kind of like what you and I are doing. We're just talking, and we just kind of, I ask them questions and do this stuff. So it's like kind of more similar to what we're doing now, where it's just you and me, and where we would be talking,
Okay.
and then I will go in. I'll make like a 10-minute clip of that conversation. I'll
Okay.
put that into the podcast, and then uh, later on in the week, I will release the full length episode on our YouTube page.
Okay.
Yeah, or the full length interview on our YouTube page. So to answer your question, um, I make it so like when it's these serious things, I don't try to joke around.
Right.
I just try to like, this is just, we're just gonna talk,
Right.
and then I highlight all the funny parts and all the interesting parts and put that into the show. So then it's like, you know that way they're like totally comfortable, because that's my biggest thing. It's like, yeah, you're a nurse, come on our comedy show where we just
This is what
mess
I'm saying.
around
It's
and
like
make
the
jokes. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like that's what I'm saying. It's like you got somebody serious, like a nurse, doctor, lawyer, and then teacher and
yeah.
congresswoman, whatever, and they're like,
One
I'm
day,
not
yeah,
going, like, I'm not going to the comedy show. These guys are gonna make fun of me.
yeah,
The
yeah,
setback would be like pretty big. So
yeah,
I'm glad you can work it out that way. To have a serious conversation and things of that nature. So it works out.
yeah.
So what has some of the things that you have learned from interviewing all these different people throughout life?
Oh man, so many things. I don't know. Like, I
So,
mean,
so would be like two takeaway. Be like, oh my god, I can definitely apply this in my life right now.
um, I feel like I learn something from my guests every time I talk to them. But the most cheesiest answer, but it's kind of true though. Like, I always learn like people's perspectives. Learning, talking to, we talked to some comedians who are trying to start their own comedy theater and school here in LA, and what I learned from them is that they have this very different experience in the comedy world, because they are all people of color,
Right.
and they had this kind of, even though like I'm technically Mexican. I, totally look white. My name is Adam. And that's my hill. That's my burden. That's my journey. But uh, because of that, I maybe was treated a different way,
Okay.
and I got to hear their kind of perspective on, like, what's it like being an Indian person in the comedy world? What's it like being somebody that uh, grew up in East LA and did comedy through there, and then tried to join UCB and or the Pack or anything like that, or
Right.
African American or whatever, and just kind of learning, like, there are, though that my perspective may not be exactly, though we did the same kind of track, their experiences are wildly different, and um how you go through those experiences is kind of totally based on your own personal experience. But I don't know, like, I don't know. And then also, like, I learned that sometimes movies are bad. I don't know, like, I talk to, like, weird yeah, we just talk to, like, people that have different perspectives sometimes, and that's what we really, really want to we try to do on the show, is real people, real perspectives, and then, so we get outside of our bubble a little bit.
Yeah, the definitely helps you grow. I feel like because you get somebody else's perspective, and not only help you grow, but you get to think from a different point of view. But like you never even thought about it. Like that happened to me all the time. Every time I'm talking to somebody, it's like, for example, talking to you right now, I get to learn how to be a comedian. How does the mind of the comedian works? I
I
never even
mean,
thought about that.
oh well, yeah, I mean, a lot of people say, again, would not qualify me as a comedian, so I do really appreciate that you saying that.
Take it as a compliment.
I
So
will.
I will make you into a comedian. How do you structure your joke so it becomes funnier? Tell me that.
Oh, I mean, it's always the truth. It's
Okay.
the first thing. First idea is always the funniest idea. I mean, for the most part, unless you're like have a really, really messed up point of view. But in my mind, it's always like, usually the thing you want to say
Right.
is the thing that nobody else wants to say, or the thing that everybody else was thinking, and the point is to say it first, or like, so like, that's there's so many times where you can just overthink, like, what would be so funny, but the thing that flows out is usually, like, even though maybe something is a funnier idea,
Right.
um if it's not your truth, like what you actually think, it's not going to
Right.
be funny. Like, if, say for instance, like, if Bill Burr told a joke, and then Kevin Hart tried to tell that same joke, it's not as funny, because it's not their perspective, and vice versa. Like, your point of view is what makes you funny. And so when I try to write, and I do monologues at the beginning of every show,
Sure.
um, I and it's been a kind of a growing process on that, because that's something I had never done before, like doing a monologue with, like, little cutouts and photoshopped little images and stuff like that on the side here. um so I just writing that, and just like every time that I would go back and like rewatch the monologue, I'm like, I should have said that. I don't know why I didn't say that. That's what I wanted to say, but I was like in my head, and the things that I've always gotten, like, the biggest reaction from crowds is literally just my knee jerk reaction. Like, boom, that's something I said. And so it's just really like learning, like, knowing who you are, and kind of like knowing what you're thinking yourself, and then just saying that in a way. Now,
Right.
granted, that'll get you in trouble if you do not have a good point of view. Like, that'll get you in trouble for sure.
That would be number one. Number two, that if no one can relate to you, the worst thing that happened to a comedian, no one says anything. Dead silence.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Dead
Yeah. Yeah. Like
silence.
a death silence. But that's the thing. That's the unfortunate part. Again, that's why we kind of changed our format too, because you know we're used to doing this in a room, and we're like kind of chuckling while we're doing it and stuff. And you know, while we're doing comedy virtually, is
Right.
you don't hear the audience. You don't hear the chuckles. Because if you do, then your joke's gonna get smashed. Because it's that's how the audio thing works and stuff. So
Right.
um, how the audio processing is. So that's kind of why we're formatting it for this virtual world or whatever. but
Gotcha.
that feeling of like hearing that,
The
like we're trying to do.
instant
Yeah.
audience persons, the feedback is like you told a joke and you got a reaction on it. You can actually see it.
Yeah.
That's like rewarding on its own.
Well,
Yeah, I
the
get.
best part is just like riffing something, and then
Yeah,
like you hear a chuckle, and you're like, "Oh, wait, that was funny," and then finding how to make it funnier and funnier and funnier,
right,
based off of like, and that's what it's learning how to do comedy in like a virtual world. That's what everybody's trying to do right now.
right. So it seems like the work that you are doing for your podcast, the back end side is a lot of work, a lot of things that you have put in place, the skits, the jokes, and the monologues and things of that nature. And then I'm sure it took you a while to get to that point, or has it not?
Well, so it's funny enough. There is very little
It's
back.
interesting you always have it's funny enough, but that's like the comedian thing. It's funny enough.
It's funny, actually. Now that you say it. By the way, no, w- w- it is funny what that you're saying, because
Okay,
in this new, I used to do a bunch of post production.
gotcha.
So we would record everything clean, and then I would go back and edit, and I would put the sound effects in, I would put the music in, I would do all these. I would do complete plugins on all the multi-track recording and stuff. And it was we I would edit it, and I would make it clean, I would cut out all the and all that stuff. It was a lot of stuff. But
Right.
now that we're live, there was really not a lot of post production. I just like I slapped the music on there, I put a break in the middle for our ads, I put outro music, and and then the show goes out the next day. But we actually do more pre-production now, because
Okay.
we have a writers meeting. We If you can believe, we actually write this crap. We have a writers meeting, and then we shoot a sketch.
Okay.
So that's like all before, and then I edit the sketch, and then I write a monologue, and then I prepare the monologue or whatever. So it's everything is before the show now, and then we go live on Mondays, and then we just kind of like whatever happens on the show happens on the show, and then we put it up.
Wow. And this is, guys, if you never heard the backstory of how does a comedy show take place, you just got a true insight of this is the stuff they actually do that no one gets to see it or get credit for it.
Yeah,
So thank you for sharing that.
of
That was,
course. Yeah.
yeah, funny enough. I'm glad you shared that.
Thank you very much.
Cool. So after you do your show and post production, it goes live. And then what happens after for you in terms of getting the word out there so people can go listen to it?
Right, and that's all a journey, as well.
Okay.
So, um, we do a lot of things. So a lot of our numbers are coming from live, doing live stuff.
Okay.
So our live video show is actually more popular than our podcast, and that I think mainly because comedy is just kind of better visually. I think ultimately, like, it's really hard to do a comedy talk show audio wise, and not saying that it's impossible, because and it's not saying that some of my favorite podcasts are comedic. I love them.
Right.
um, but our videos now on Facebook are organically huge, and what we do for that is we share to just Facebook groups, all the Facebook groups, all the comedy Facebook groups, all of the funny video Facebook groups, all of the streaming live Twitch stream Facebook groups. We just share them, and that helps so much. Like,
Okay.
go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll let you finish first. Go
Well, I
ahead.
was just gonna say, like, we might get live views. We might get somewhere along the lines of like somewhere like 25 people watching at one time, which is
Sure.
it's fun. That's enough in the chat, and that's totally fine. But like, as we're sharing it, we're getting up to quite a bit more than that, like a lot more than that,
Right.
because people are just watching it and clicking on and off and stuff like that. But because it's a video, and the way Facebook's like their platform is, you can kind of just watch a video for a second, then scroll through. Like, whereas like YouTube, kind of have to watch the whole thing, and all that stuff. And even and the same thing with Instagram. We post up like a highlight every week, and people just kind of like, make sure you get those subtitles. That's the biggest thing. So what we do for, actually marketing afterwards,
Yeah.
I send out our newsletter, which you can subscribe to at fingergunscomedy.com. There's a newsletter right there. Sign up for it. We send out all of our sketches. We have our Patreon. We have our shirts all right there. It's where you can like, boom, get it. And that goes out every Tuesday, like kind of morning. And you can just listen to it right there or watch it right there. It's right on our Facebook page. It's linked right there. Every episode has um, its own website page. So
Okay.
what we try to make it like, it's all about accessibility, and really like, as a growing podcast, it's so hard to like break into somebody's like routine, because that's what podcasts are, right? Mark, I
Yep.
don't know what you do. Like I don't know how do you listen to podcasts?
I just listen to it obviously when I'm well. The beautiful thing about podcasting is like it's a multi-purpose. You don't have to stay in one place, and you just
Right.
I listen to it most of the time when I go for a walk, which is like 8 to 12 miles. It's just listen, hour and a half, 2 hours,
Right.
whatever. I just plug it in,
But
off I go.
it's your routine, right? Like
Yep.
that's something you do maybe daily, multiple times a week, right?
Yep.
And you probably have like, during this walk, I'm gonna listen to This American Life or something. You're gonna
Sure.
listen to one of your podcasts that you like listening to during that walk,
Yep.
right? Now
Yep.
imagine how hard it is like, hey Mark, you should listen to Finger Guns Comedy instead. And you're like, how hard it is to like, you're scrolling through Netflix and you're like, don't know what to watch.
Yep.
Imagine that, but times a million for podcasts, because there's so many podcasts out there. And the problem is like, there's it's hard to knock off like one of your favorite ones,
Right.
to listen to new ones. And so what we try to make it do is like, if you're going to give it a shot, we want to make you so easy for you. We want to
Okay.
like get a link tree where you can just click on that, and it has your available on Apple, available on Stitcher, available on Google, available on SoundCloud, Spotify. Make it available everywhere,
Everywhere. Right.
so that how they ever, because that's another thing, people like to listen to it, in the
Different
various
ways.
platforms and stuff. So
Right.
make it available, and then put it all in one place. So if you don't have a website, do Linktree. It's free. Boom, put them all in one place, and then they can select where they want to select. So at least it's like, it's two, it's two clicks essentially.
Yep.
It'd be ideal if it's one, but it is what it is, right? So we send that out, and then we send out a highlight, and the highlight is kind of like, this is the fun thing that we did this week. And then try to bring everything back to the hub, which is your podcast. That is the hub. That's what we want people to be watching.
Right.
Lately now it's mostly our video stuff. That's our hub, but our website is where we want people to go, and then they can see the show or watch the show or listen to it right on there.
Right. So I guess that would be a call to action. Yeah, go over there and check out more, and go to this website, which will be the Finger
Yeah.
Guns. I'm just out of curiosity, how did you come up with this particular URL?
Well, so
Finger Guns Comedy. Like what?
I know. I don't know. Like, it was my one of my teammates and my partner here, Steve Sotelo.
Okay.
He when we came together, it was actually kind of his idea to like all of us. He got us all together, and I think at the time it was just like, we were technically a podcast network, like I was saying, it was different podcasts every week, so we pretended like we were a network that were doing things.
Right.
And so oh yeah, your camera's out of focus there.
Yeah,
there
I
it
know.
is. There you go. But anyway, so yeah, we he just kind of was like, I don't know, Finger Guns Comedy Network or Finger Guns
Okay.
Network, podcast network. And
Okay.
we were all like, what? And he's like, I don't know, it's just something. So and then he sat down and was like, all right, what are we gonna name this thing? And we're all just like, let's just keep it Finger Guns. And so we just went Finger Guns Comedy for the rebrand and stuff, and that's what it was. But it was totally Steve Sotelo's idea.
All right, man. Credits to you having this
Yeah.
amazing website and this URL. So
Yeah.
I was just kidding. Like, comedy part I got, whatever, but it'd be like you knew
Oh,
whenever
Finger
you,
Guns.
yeah.
Pew, pew, pew. Yeah, we shoot from the hip. Shoot from the hip.
All right, we'll give you a joke from the hip.
No.
Okay, that's not funny enough. I'll let you be the professional comedian. All right, so we got the gear, we got the content, we got the how do you promote it, and then what was left is like how would you recommend if somebody's just starting out the podcast game? What advice would you give that person? Say just do X, Y, and Z, you will get to where you want to go a lot faster.
I mean, I would suggest number one thing is know what you're going to be talking about. Like, don't just figure it out, because
Okay.
there's something so interesting that happened in the beginning of the shutdown in America, is that Amazon ran out of microphones because everybody was starting a podcast.
Yep.
So now there are already so many podcasts before this moment, and so now there's even more. Like, these people are just like, I'm bored, I'm starting a podcast. What is going to distinguish you from, I think, the pack is having not only again, this is like I was saying with comedy.
Sure.
Podcasts can be its own show and the super unique thing. You got your Homecoming, you got your Serial. It's a super unique thing, super thing. But a lot of the times it's there to establish your brand of who you are. Like, Mark, this is your brand. You're interested in podcasting. You have a podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's what you are establishing. I'm a
Yep.
comedian. I have a comedy podcast where we're doing comedy stuff. Um, don't just start a podcast and like figure it out. Like, I don't think anyone aside from like a really famous person could be successful in that. What's going to make it unique is that your perspective, just like with your jokes, are going to be the thing that people want to drive. So make it you, make it the thing that you are interested in, and make it the thing that you are about, because people are going to follow it because they know you are good at it.
Yep.
You are good at singing. Therefore, I'm going to hear a music discussion podcast. You
Right.
are an activist. So I want to hear you talk about activism. Make it the thing that you are about. Don't just like, hey, we're going to figure it out and we're going to talk to my friends. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do
Do
that.
that.
For the love of
Big.
God.
Yeah,
uh,
definitely a best advice. I definitely agree 100% with it. If you sometime you try to figure it out, it works out. Sometime it doesn't. Depending on the person who they're, the way about they go doing things in the nature. Sometimes like for example, my first career, I kind of figured it out. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I kind of figured it out, which was the
yeah.
photography thing. But depending on the person to person, yeah, you could figure it out, but for general public have an idea and then try to go create some kind of content for it. So I think personally, if you, before you even think about creating a podcast or go into like recording and everything else, just take a cell phone and give yourself uh, 10 episodes that you want to record. What that will do is it will tell you like whether or not you have the level of dedication and patience to record that. And then if you don't have that, then once you go spend money on mic, on hosting and things of that nature, you're just going to be wasted away and you're going to be pissed off even more.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people like, oh man, my friends are so funny. Why don't we just like record this and start a podcast? It's like,
Right.
okay, try it, see if it works.
Right.
You're not. I mean, it's not going to work because like that defeats the point of hanging out. Like, you can't just. You gotta. There's so much stuff you got to do aside from just the hanging out and getting everybody together.
Yep. And
Just
then
make
the
it.
whole thing I was gonna say was like I didn't know about the amount of effort and work okay you guys do before, and I guarantee you, average person will not do that. I
Yeah.
guarantee you.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of comedy podcasts are having writing meetings on our level, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, really, no one would do that. So I appreciate you doing that work, and I'm sure people who listen to it they will appreciate it as well. And then last thing, what I want to do is before we set our ways, is to ask you two questions,
Sure.
and one of them is wherever you are right now and everything that you know right now, and if 20-year-old version of you asks you advice
Mm.
and you want to give advice to him to get to where you are a lot faster, what would that be?
I would have told him that podcasting can be a job. Um, when I was going to school, and I was going to music school. I was literally learning pretty much all the technical stuff that you need to do to be a podcast producer, which is what I'm doing now. I'm a podcast producer for other people's podcasts and stuff, which I could totally. We didn't even get a chance to go into, but I could totally talk your ear off of that. But
Okay.
I went to school for music engineering to like get a job in working in a studio recording music and stuff. Meanwhile, I had my earbuds in listening to podcasts the whole time. Like
Right.
I can't even tell you, I listened to more podcasts in college than I listened to music, and I went to school for music. I mean, part of it was like I didn't want to be, I wanted to break, but it took me a long time to realize like, oh, people are making money from doing podcasts and they need people to produce it. And so a few years ago, I was just like, oh, this is what I want to do. Why didn't I think of this sooner? And that's what I would have told my friend. Is just like you can actually, or my friend, meaning myself, because I do consider
Yourself,
myself
right?
my friend. Um, I would have told him like you could follow this thing you like doing that's maybe seems really small and kind of a secret. It's actually not, and you could be making so much money from it.
Okay. That's a
Yeah,
great advice. And every time I ask that question, I always get a different answer, which is unique to the person answering it, which is a great thing. So I get an insight of like, wow, how people actually think. And that's why I always ask her, like, this is a really good question. So I'm like, I'm going to use that question on my show next time
that's
because it's
great.
a really good show
It's so good.
question.
Yeah, thank you for yeah, man, that was great. I am I have to go like sit lay down after that one. That was like I'm in like a weird spot right now. I just talked to my younger self. I don't know where I am. I'm in this weird red vacuum. I don't know where am I? You've brought me into this weird part of the virtual space, Mark. Somehow I just want to go home. Mark, I just want to go home.
All right, man, let's get you home. Let's get to the future now. So the next question, the next question is, what is that one thing or things that you are working on that you are so stoked, so excited about it, you cannot wait to get up in the morning and work on it? And is there anything that will get in the way of stopping you?
No, my podcast, my
Okay.
show. I love the direction that it's going right now. I love doing it. I love that we're live. I love we talk about real things. We bring comedy to stuff. We are a good representation of America. Like we have less white dudes than we do have people of color on the show, which is great. And
Okay.
we like I am doing something that I love to do, and it's so fun, and that's the project, and the only thing that stops me is life, like paying the bills and stuff. And but lately it's been really really, fortunately, knock on wood, we've been okay. So that's where we're at.
All right. Awesome, man. And last but not least, I always give the people who I'm interviewing the floor to say anything you want to say and promote anything you want to do is all yours.
Is this like plugs, or should like am I going to talk about my
Whatever you want, the floor is all. You have an
okay?
unlimited time to do whatever you want to say.
Actually, I will take this to just a public service announcement. People are dumb, so wear your mask whenever you're outside. And also, when you're wearing a mask, make sure it covers your whole face. I'm seeing too many people with their mask below their nose all the time. I mean, what are we doing, guys? Come on. And that's why you should everybody, let's just all just stay inside and figure, like, let's just wait. Why do we got to go to Disney World right now? Let's just stay inside. Let's, I'll see you guys next year. Okay. I'll see you next year. Also, follow me at Adam R. Mack on Instagram and Twitter. Follow Fingerguns at Go Fingerguns on Instagram and Twitter. You can also go to our website, fingergunscomedy.com. You can see us live there. We have our live feed up there on Mondays. You can subscribe to us on all the things. It's literally right there as soon as you land. And you can check out all of our past episodes on our episodes page. And you can join our Patreon for $1, where you get a free episode every week. So go check that out.
All right, awesome. And if you can send me the link, I'll put that in the show notes
Oh, I
for
will.
you in that particular podcast. So,
Awesome. Thank
well,
you.
definitely, man. I'll do anything I do to help you, support you, and not only make sure you support you, but make sure you are successful as well.
Thanks, Mark. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me. This has been fun. I feel like we're best friends now. And as your best friend, just let me know if you need anything, dude. I know we live far away, but I feel very close to you now. So I
All right, man.
appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. Once again, Adam, thank you so much for being here. Simple Podcast team, truly appreciate that. And as I said in the beginning of the podcast, there's a small little secret that anyone who listens to the show, and this is the secret part now. As a Simple Podcast team, we have a contest going on where we are giving away one free membership for the whole year. And then the only thing you got to do is just give us a review on iTunes and take a screenshot of it, send it to us on a support at simplepodcastcloud.com, and you'll be entered to win. And then we'll be drawing 5 lucky winners to give them that on September 15th. So if you want to get into that drawing, make sure you do that. So without any further ado, thank you so much, Adam, once again. We appreciate you and wish you much success and happy life, man.
Thanks, man. I'll see you.